And Bhuvnesh, again, congratulations for organizing such a wonderful meet for the hospitality diaspora. And of course, giving me an opportunity to come back to Delhi. And a fabulous, fabulous panel. And I think we've got great international representation here. So let's get straight into it. I know we are in between you and your first drink, so we will try to move straight into it. I know there were a lot of data points shared this throughout the day today. You know, fifth largest economy, one of the youngest population, a large middle class, 125 airports by next year, the infrastructure growth. So there are a lot of boxes that are being ticked for India. I mean, a lot of us, Nihat and Omar, we were in Singapore in high cap, and frankly, there were more Indians there than other Southeast Asian investors. So India seems to be a global favorite, seems to be the flavor, yet there's a lot of road to be covered, a lot to learn. So let's get straight with Nihat. Nihat, in your capacity, you know, looking after Asia Pac, you obviously have, you know, a big, big overview. So if you were to give a balcony view for Asia Pac to start with, and then let's come back to India.
Yeah, sure. As I said earlier today, you know, investment activity is on the uptick. I think investors that are out there are looking for, you know, that next big growth market, and really India is the one that offers that opportunity. You know, China is going through a difficult phase right now, and if you're an offshore, if you've got offshore money looking to come in, I think there are some structural challenges that impact appetite and your exit strategy. So it's sort of big picture. I'd say that buyers are kind of like effectively diverting away from China into that next big growth story, and that next big growth story, for all the reasons that we've been talking about throughout the day, is really India. India is coming from a very small base. So if you look at transaction volumes this year, about $420 million of sales in India, compared to $12 billion in the entire region, right? The Australian market today, this year, will have a roughly $500 million of sales. So kind of it's on par with Australia, but Australia's basically volumes are down half. You know, we're doing a transaction in Japan at the moment where, you know, a single asset is worth $1 billion. So just puts into context these, you know, the size of the opportunity, as well as the growth that's actually ahead of this market. But this year was, in terms of volume, the highest single asset sales volume that we've ever seen in India. And so I think we're in an upward trajectory. Liquidity is entering the market. There are transactions that are happening. There is offshore capital that's actually coming into the market for the first time, and it's not just at the direct level, but it's at the indirect level. So I was in the Middle East a couple of weeks ago, and I caught up with sovereign wealth funds in, you know, Qatar, Saudi, and the United Arab Emirates, and, you know, they're looking at funding GPs in this market, to look at hospitality opportunities. There are strategic investors that are in Thailand, in Singapore, and in Hong Kong that are looking to diversify into the Indian subcontinent as well. So I think it's kind of an interesting mix. There's a lot of conversations that are happening, not as much action yet, but we're kind of moving. At least the discussion is going, and I think that's going to lead to some transaction activity from offshore investment in the near future.
So Nihat, just continuing on that, so I think that's the good news. A lot of global investors, sovereign wealth funds, institutional investors are looking into India. So what do you think is needed for the transaction liquidity to really kind of gain pace? As you said, $500 million, when you compare the larger landscape, what's happening in Asia Pac, it's still very, very small considering the size of India. So what do you think Indian hoteliers, or what needs to change to really get those funds flowing into India, where it's $3-4 billion of transaction every year?
Yeah, look, I think as the market matures, obviously more institutional quality assets becoming available. I think there's still, just by virtue of the supply of quality assets, institutional quality assets, there's not enough out there to be investing in. That's one ash, and I think kind of, you know, the development pipeline that's in India, kind of as new entrants are coming in, as new product is coming. I mean, if that development cycle gets shorter, a shorter development cycle potentially will lead to a higher volumes in the future as more product is available. I think the debt markets need to be deeper. Obviously, cost of finance is quite expensive at the moment. You know, you need non-recourse financing facilities for acquisitions. You can't just borrow on balance sheets. You know, we're talking, I think I was showing earlier on, what the base rate here is around 6.5. I think the all-in cost of debt is high single digits, early double digits. So that does need to come down to make kind of a more viable investment opportunity, unless you can, you know, you're not buying in India unless you're getting double-digit returns day one. So I think once we can see a bit more depth and breadth in the debt markets, I think that's going to create some more kind of diversity from an investor landscape, and then liquidity. Just transparency, I would say. I mean, I think, you know, and I don't have the statistics on hand, but you know, we do JLA does a global ranking of transparency index for countries, and India's definitely been moving up quite rapidly. But of course, it's, you know, we're still a way away from, you know, the likes of Japan and Singapore and even Thailand. So I think more transparency in terms of the way transactions are done, less bureaucracy, less red tape, faster transactions. I think that will certainly open up volumes as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nihat. Thanks. Salil, moving over to you. First of all, saw the beautiful pictures, not this one, of your new property opening in Calcutta very soon. So congratulations.
Thank you.
On that property. Looks fabulous. So Atmosphere, I think it's fair to say, one of the largest operators in Maldives, and now coming into India in a large way. So what was motivation for Atmosphere to come into India?
Good evening, and it's not, I'm just coming back home. I went from here, did something in Maldives, and we learned through the process. Enriched, Maldives was pretty infant when we started the hoteliering. Nihat is a witness, you know, we did a lot of work with Nihat, and some great brands have been created there. Six Senses, let's talk about Minor, you know, it has done fantastically, you know. Sure. Minor has been put to a world map in a luxury sense from Maldives, those Sonevas, and I felt it is a good ground to learn and develop and bring some of those ethos, and it was always in my plan to come back to India and do something.
So what the learnings from Maldives, and the obvious question is Andaman and Lakshadweep. How do you think we can translate or transform? We probably don't want to make another Maldives there, but what are the learnings that I think will be quite interesting for the audience here you've had over the years in Maldives that we could probably apply into Lakshadweep and Andaman?
Interesting. I always say that, you know, the science of hoteliering is global. It doesn't change. The science doesn't change. The art changes with place, region, culture, and that's how you amalgamate the art with the science of hoteliering. The science of hoteliering is very simple line. Satisfied guest. That's the ultimate. And if the science doesn't change, you know, whether we bring it to Maldives, whether it's an island, whether it's a city hotel, whether it is a leisure hotel, whether it is a heritage hotel, I always say that a hotel is a hotel, doesn't matter. The guest once enters through the door of the hotel, it should be blissful. It should be different. It should not be, there is nothing called a business hotel for me. I do business outside the hotel. I stay in the hotel for my comfort. Yeah. Well, it happened to be in a business district. Doesn't mean that it's not a hotel. You know, otherwise it should have been a hospital.
Sure.
So the fact remains, is the science remains same. You know, this has been questioned to me. One question was asked to me You have just operated in the islands in the Maldives. Some of our hotels are gorgeous. They have been good positioning. You are opening in Kolkata. How will you do it? As the first thing you have to know that I am from the region. I know the culture very well. And I know the science of hoteliering. I think I will deliver a great result there. So that, of course, being a island specialist like a lot of you also, you will like to contribute to the island developments in India and try to enrich.
Can I just say,
Sure, please.
Again, I have a huge amount of respect for everyone in this table. Atmosphere has really cornered the market in the Maldives. I mean, Salil and his team came out with a concept, the premium all-inclusive, and really drove that. And, we at JLL, we benchmark a lot of performance in properties. And on a total revenue per occupied room basis, Atmosphere hotels, resorts, are achieving some of the highest rates and some incredible margins, actually. So in terms from an operations and from a bottom line perspective, they're hugely, hugely profitable. And we've seen the Maldives market bifurcate into ultra luxury doing extremely well and premium all inclusive. And this is where I think Salil and his team and the wholesaler relationships that you have come in extremely handy, because you're basically giving commissions on total revenue, which is different than some of your peers. So it encourages the wholesalers to really market the product as well, and more prominently feature it on their publications and brochures. And so that drives more demand and guests. I think you look at when guests are checking out, you actually judge yourself by how much they don't pay, right? It's so
yeah, that's one of my core philosophy.
Yes. Yeah, so all of that, I think, it's a unique concept, and I think kind of Atmosphere took the kind of the all-inclusive model and just transformed it into something quite different for the Maldives market, and it's become successful. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you then kind of move that over into India.
No, thank you, Nihat. I think it's a great sales speech for me for India. Thank you.
Great. Well done, Salil. Well done. Omar, so I think Bhuvnesh did a very good introduction, your connection to India for over 20 years. So Omar, those of you who don't know, has recently joined Mina after 20 plus years with Six Senses. And he's been with Mina, so we obviously colleagues, work in the same office in Bangkok. He's been with Mina for 3 weeks. First week, he was attending a hotel conference in Dubai. Second week, which was last week, he was in a hotel conference in Singapore. Third week, now he's in a hotel conference in India. So when are you actually going to work, Omar?
Well, I'm very disappointed. There is no conference next week, But no, it's great to be here, and yeah, that's what I joined, right? Minor is so dynamic, so eager to grow, and just to hit the ground running has been amazing for me. So
sure.
Very interesting.
So I think we talked about this earlier. I mean, 3 conferences you've attended. Of course, this is in India, so of course it's all about India. But HiCap in Singapore last week, I mean, again, the amount of attendance from India, both from an investor's point of view, developer's point of view, and just an overall interest in India, I think we were all surprised, and everybody said it's the first time they're seeing such sort of interest into India. What are your views overall? I mean, you're not new to India. Six Senses had 2 fabulous properties. And of course, Mina is opening Anantara in Jaipur next month. But generally, what would you say has to happen in India for development to really gather pace?
Yeah, I think, thanks for the question, Puneet. That's a very good one, actually. And India is, as I mentioned just in the previous panel before, is a country that is definitely in the uprise when it comes from the tourism point of view, right? There is very positive energy. Hotels are getting full, business is getting there, but we cannot forget that this comes a lot with a lot of challenges out there. Yeah, we have geopolitical challenges, construction costs are going up, we have inflation, we have infrastructure issues, we have a lot of things that we need to be very agile and be able to adapt quickly in order to be able to really be successful within tourism in this country. And we talk about this, you and me actually over the breaks a couple of times today, but what amazes me is that India has everything when it comes to wellness tourism, adventure tourism, nature tourism, heritage, and why we're still not getting the numbers that other countries with much lesser destinations are getting, actually. And I think that is responsibility of both public and private sector for us to be able to do this together. I think that from the brand point of view, we need to work very responsibly on creating a product that first and foremost makes sense for our owners, for our developers, and look at things in a more holistic manner. You know, look and explore, is mixed use what makes sense? Do we need to add commercial? Do we need to add residential into this? What is going to be our F&B strategy, not just trying to throw an all-day dining and a fine dining into a hotel? And if we're going to do wellness, which type of wellness we're going to do here? And actually, does it make sense to do wellness, you know? So I think that's something that we need to do, and then really start diversifying products in markets that will be more suited for the different destinations that we have to offer in the country.
Sure, fabulous, Omar. Thank you. Khaled, first of all, welcome to India. I believe it's your first visit to India, so welcome.
Thank you, Puneet. Thank you.
So what are your first impressions of India?
Actually, it's a huge market. I have been here for the last 3 days. I've been Mumbai and Delhi. The amount of welcoming that I have received from many of the big names and the big operators, met with many of the hospitality and the residential investment. It's really the numbers and the investment volume is massive, and I would say it's always good to look at the diversity, and as well it's an 8 billion people all over the world, so it's everywhere. You know, a good opportunity to look and invest, you know. Sure.
I think, Khaled, it would be very interesting for the audience, because I'm not quite sure how familiar they are with Marjan Island and Ras Al Khaimah.
Yeah.
I was obviously living and working in Dubai, so and managing a hotel in Marjan Island, so I'm quite familiar. But I think, and ladies and gentlemen, it's quite interesting. So Ras Al Khaimah is one of the Emirates, a part of the UAE. And it's just amazing what Marjan Island and Ras Al Khaimah has done over the last, I would say, 5 to 8 years, or maybe 10 years.
Probably,
that transformation that has happened. So if you can just quickly explain Ras Al Khaimah, Marjan Island, and what is happening there.
See, in a nutshell, Ras Al Khaimah is the 4th largest emirate in the UAE, and it's actually, most of it are mountains. If you don't know, we have the highest mountain. We are on the Arabian Gulf, and we are actually closer than Dubai, from Dubai to Dubai itself. So it's funny to say that we are actually closer than from the airport to Ras Al Khaimah than from the airport to Atlantis, for example. So, back to the thing. 20 years ago, Ras Al Khaimah was known to the UAE market for being in the industrial city, and in the last few years, from His Highness and the vision of the leadership, we got a mandate to diversify the business into different aspects: logistics, mining, real estate, tourism, and many other areas, where we have generated a strong market that has a contribution to the GDP right now of 20 billion. And we are aiming for growing more and more with a very little debts of an A+ from like Fitch. And as well, we have right now, after we have finished with Al Marjan Island, we have got the JV having win the integrated resort, one of the upcoming projects that expected to be completed by Q1 2027. So once we have this announcement, we have received lots of interest from international brands that would like to be lined up all around Al Marjan Island and Ras Al Khaimah. This have created lots of attraction to different indirect businesses. So it actually created, maybe in the industrial and in the logistics, a lot, as well as the residential, commercial, retail experience. So name it, sky is the limit. I can keep on talking about each and every component. Will take me a lot to explain. But to cut story short, this is a rising new opportunity. It's just coming new. And it's following the same algorithm of what you have seen as successful cities that have gone into gaming industry. Singapore, Las Vegas, Macau. So following the same algorithm, it's actually taking you and shaping a growing economy.
Sure.
So based on this, we decided to look at the consultants and our advisors, international and domestic, and we were able to understand what is our mandate. At the end of the day, we are the government. We are enablers for the investors, as I've explained from before. So without having the private sector, we will not be able to build it all. Sure. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So we enable the market. After we have the introduction of WIN, we understand that we need to build by the next few years 42,000 units, residential units. We need to have at least double the size of the number of hotel keys. We need to have, right now we are 8,000 hotel keys of 1.1. I was just talking about this. We are expecting after the studies that we are looking at 5.5 million. So we are times 5, and we don't have enough hotel keys.
Sure.
So we need to build more of this. So after we are actually sold out with Al Marjan Island. After we have looked at addressing all the hotel keys, we need to look at the residential. We need to look at the commercial. So one of the very interesting investment opportunities that we are introducing in currently is Rack Central, which is, what is the market require in Ras Al Khaimah right now? We need at least a grade A office space. We don't have. So who is the success story? We look at all the comparables, and we found out that, okay, DIFC is one of the good opportunities and the good office park. Gensler, please join us, give us a design. Tell us your experience about DIFC. Let's design a grade A office space, LEED certified, golden belt. So it's one of the highest in terms of equality. And based on this, we have created a new master plan, which is 1 million square feet of office space that we are going to invest 1B. And we have 32 towers, hotels that accommodate around 1,000 hotel keys, around 20,000 units, and as well as retail that will be stripped in the ground floor, and a community center to be work, live, and play community, just from scratch. This will be the high-rise that overlook the Gulf of Al Hamra Golf Course and the sea with the wind view. So it's not a repetitive, it's a new master plan, but it has the view of the gaming or the attraction. So it's, as I've seen in Singapore a few days when I met you there, and exactly the way that I have seen in Macau. So it is following, as I explained, the same investment opportunity that is rising. We are actually trying to follow the same steps together. Yeah.
That's fabulous insight, Khaled, how Ras Al Khaimah is transforming the whole landscape.
Yes.
And, and it's all literally happened in the last 5 or 8 years. What do you think is the learning for India? How do you think you've spent, I know, just a couple of days in India, as Omar said, I mean, from adventure to spirituality to iconic monuments, to beautiful palaces, beautiful landscape. What are the lessons for India? How do we speed up development in India?
I would say lots of things we still are exploring and learning from the India experience in various areas and cities, in the tourism as well as the mainly on the hospitality sector. You guys have a great benchmark of the hospitality sector, and we would like to explore further in how to partner in getting the experience as well with us and have to share our experiences together on
Sure,
this. Yes.
thanks. Nihat, I want to close with you. I know we're going to run out of time now. So we all know about what's happening in Saudi, the intensity and the pace and the scale which Saudi is, transforming their whole tourism and hospitality landscape. Do you think something like that could ever happen in India? Because just to give you a perspective, India today has about 175,000 branded rooms, same as Dubai, right? So to get to, let's say, at least 1 million rooms with the size and the landscape of the country, today 10.2 million arrivals, international arrivals, out of which actually only 50% are for tourism and leisure. Rest are either corporate travels or visiting family and friends or the Indian diaspora coming back. So technically there are only 5 million international real visitors coming to India. As you know, Thailand gets more than 40 million, right? Small city, state like Singapore, almost 20 million this year, right? 5 million in India. So to get to that scale, what do you think in your view, because you've got a perspective of whole of Asia Pac, in closing, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, seeing what's happening in Saudi, obviously it's very impressive. Very ambitious plans and targets. It helps to have a lot of oil coming from the earth and therefore fund. I've got quite a lot of friends that are in various positions with state entities there. And look, I think the issue there is a lot of these projects, I would say, have questionable economic fundamentals. Mm-hmm. Now, it's a chicken and egg situation, it's sort of build it and they'll come, yeah. Or will they come and then you build it to cater for it? So Saudi is, running it on a very different strategy, build and they will come. Without question, amazing landscape, amazing tourism potential, but a very different approach to development. So I think as it relates to kind of what's happening in the Indian landscape, the potential for the Indian landscape, I think that level of kind of master planning and that level of government investment, I don't think is necessarily going to be possible here. I think, again, that economic viability and the feasibility does come into the equation. I also think that the way fundamentally land is owned in India is very different to the way land is owned in Saudi. I mean, the government basically controls all land, and therefore if they say we shall build something there, they should build something there. It's the way the Chinese do it. It's not the way it went in India. I mean, just the virtue of the legislations to be able to amalgamate sites that are big enough to be able to then cater for mass development. So I think there are structural challenges in India that will prevent. But having said that, obviously, this is a country that has just so much to offer. And again, I'm not going to summarize all that. We've talked about it all. I think ultimately, the growth in international demand and international tourism, it just comes down to infrastructure. And I think I was in a meeting earlier today where there was, talk about what's, all the great things that are happening to the airport capacity, but then nothing happening to the roads. So again, there's got to be investment at all levels to not just get the tourists here, get the corporate demand here, but then be able to distribute that corporate demand into the cities and not just clog it up. So the amount of economic loss, I think, that's wasted in traffic, as I had to do earlier today, just to travel to Delhi city center for a meeting, it's just a wasted opportunity. So I think infrastructure and infrastructure investment and better master planning around it is frankly critical to future success of India.
Sure, no, I absolutely agree. But the good news is there is a lot of investment going into infrastructure, whether it's highways or the airports. I mean, as you know, there's about 1,000 planes ordered by India between Air India and Indigo, which will obviously come into circulation. That will improve inbound and both outbound travel. From a GDP point of view, India today is tourism is about $232 billion coming from tourism dollars. And it's going to double by 2028 to more than $500 billion. If you look at from World Economic Forum tourism ranking, India from 39th is jumped up to 15 places. So I think there's a lot of positive news. The future looks really, really bright. And on that note, I would like to take the opportunity to thank each and every one of you to making this panel, and I hope the audience found it interesting and informative at the same time. Thank you very much.